How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU, and the Eternals is right around the corner. We actually have less than a month until this epic movie comes out. Now, I'm gonna try and do as many Eternals videos as I can before I see it on Monday. I'll be at the premiere, because I truly think that this movie is going to change the MCU in a really big way. In fact, it's pretty much confirmed to change how we view the MCU in its entirety. In this movie, we're going to be dealing with the gods of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The celestial gods. Of course, they created the Eternals, and they are going to be a pretty significant part of this film. Now, we know this movie is going to introduce the Eternals in two different ways. They're going to show us the past 7,000 years ago when they first got here to the Earth, and then, of course, they're going to show us what they are up to now in present time in the MCU. And we kind of know when the Eternals takes place in the MCU, which I'll talk about in a bit, and we know the official runtime of the Eternals film, and the main point of this video, we have a little bit of a teaser for the post-credit scenes. Director Chloe Zhao came out in a recent interview and teased them just a little bit. So we're going to break all this down about the Eternals in this video. If you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Eternals and MCU videos. So there are already a ton of theories going around out there about the Eternals, and it's because truly so much can happen with the Eternals. Now, the origin of the Eternals isn't probably going to be 100% the same, but it does still look like the Celestials created them. We're not sure if they also created the Deviants as well, even though they did in the comics, but the X-Men are kind of an offspring of the Eternals and the Deviants in the comics, which is one thing that a lot of people are hoping could happen in the film, some type of mutants or X-Men coming to life in the MCU. And although Marvel has pretty much, for the most part, with their Disney Plus shows and movies that have come out, stuck to really focusing on the characters and the story of the actual film, in which this film has plenty of characters to focus on. Even though they've done this, they have still left a lot of room in the post-credit scenes for films and shows to set up future events in the MCU. And it is confirmed, Eternals is going to be no different like we expected. They are going to be not one, but two post-credit scenes for the Eternals, and apparently they're going to be pretty big, which really is no surprise considering the fact that this movie is also going to be really big. But in a recent interview with Fandango, director Chloe Zhao gave us a little bit of a teaser for these two post-credit scenes. When asked if the Eternals has a post-credit scene, she replied with, "Yes, don't just stay for the first one, also stay for the second one too. They are equally as important in weight and both have big surprises for you." This is big because the Eternals actually have the potential to explore more than what we actually know in the MCU. The Celestials who created the Eternals are ancient godlike beings, and the Eternals were sent to Earth from somewhere. In the trailers, we can literally see the Eternals arriving at Earth. In the comics, they are from a place called Olympia. Could they perhaps be from Olympia in the MCU as well? But the point is that these post-credit scenes can really be huge. The Celestials are cosmic beings, and the Eternals is the first time that we're really going to focus on cosmic beings. Yes, we've been introduced to them before, like in Guardians of the Galaxy, but this is the first time that we're actually going to see them interact with characters that we are actively watching, not previews or clips of the past. But this opens the door up for a lot of things to possibly be talked about in the post-credit scene. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and I know everybody is thinking about it, is Galactus, especially if you consider the post-credit scene of Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And I won't dive into huge details about the post-credit, but slight spoilers coming up for that. We know the rings are calling somebody. They sent out a beacon, so something is coming to Earth. And we know that Galactus kind of follows beacons in a way. He follows beacons that are sent out by his heralds. And the question is, could the rings possibly have belonged to one of his heralds at some point in time? And now since they are activated, could they be calling somebody like Galactus? Primarily a cosmic entity, because this actually would not be the first time that we've seen some sort of a weapon made by or given to humans by a cosmic entity. In fact, the Power Stone at one point in time was used by Esson the Searcher, and we're not really sure how Esson the Searcher lost it or why he would have given it up, but I'm sure that is is actually something we'll definitely learn in the Eternals. Also, in Doctor Strange, we learned that Mordo uses the staff of the Living Tribunal. He literally calls it by its name. He says Living Tribunal. And in the Loki series, we also saw some statues of the heads of the Living Tribunal because the Living Tribunal has 3 heads. So could a cosmic entity have made the 10 rings? Could Galactus have given the 10 rings to one of his heralds like he gives some of the power cosmic to them in the comics? Since the rings are so powerful, I'm betting that some type of cosmic entity did indeed make them. And perhaps this is something that we could see in the Eternals, if not, maybe in the post-credit scene. And even if it has nothing to do with the 10 rings, in the Eternals trailer, they do mention that on Earth, the return of half the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin. Now, we don't really know what the emergence is at this point. We presume that it has something to do with the Deviants or the Celestials. But the big thing to take away here is energy. Galactus feeds off of energy. That is why he devours planets to harness the energy of the planets. And if the Deviants or Celestials are noticing this energy, there's a good chance that Galactus could be noticing it as well. And this would be a really good setup in the Eternals post-credit scene, showing us Galactus has noticed this energy and is on his way. And of course, if it does go somewhat of the comic book route, there is a possibility that one of the post-credits could set up mutants. Back in 2019, San Diego Comic-Con, the president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, did announce that the mutants were coming. Now, he announced them with the Fantastic Four, and it has been revealed that the Fantastic Four has already begun pre-production over at Marvel Studios, which means the mutants probably aren't far behind them. If the Eternals and Deviants really are humans that were genetically experimented on, that does open the door up for the mutants to come to the MCU, and that could be one of these post-credit scenes. Really, with a movie like The Eternals, the possibilities are almost endless, but I think one of them probably has something to do with the Black Knight. In The Eternals, Kit Harington is going to be playing Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight. However, it has been confirmed that in The Eternals, we are only going to see Dane Whitman, and he will not take on the mantle of Black Knight in the film. However, that does not mean that they can't set him up to take on that mantle in the post-credit scene. And since they clearly have plans for Kit Harington's Dane Whitman to become the Black Knight at some point in time in the MCU, I would not be surprised at all if that is what one of these post-credit scenes are. Now, we are going to be getting a lot in The Eternals. In fact, it's going to be the second longest MCU movie in history, right under Avengers Endgame. In that same interview with Fandango, Chloe Zhao commented on the long runtime of 2 hours and 36 minutes, which exceeds Avengers Infinity War. And she replied, it could be longer. You know, it's 10 characters, the Celestials, and 7,000 years. There's a lot going on. And the Eternals have been around for 7,000 years, so they are going to explore a lot. And it's been confirmed that there essentially are 2 different stories happening in the Eternals film. One, before everything happened in Avengers Endgame, and 2, post-Avengers Endgame. So get ready to learn a lot. Again, this movie is going to be very, very important. And as far as when this film takes place, producer Nate Moore kind of talked about that. Now, in the final trailer, Ajax mentions that 5 years ago, Thanos snapped away half the population of the universe. So we know that it's not too long after Avengers Endgame, but Nate Moore recently spoke about how the Eternals could connect to the current MCU, in which he said, it could be concurrent to Spider-Man Far From Home. Again, they sort of operate on a different system, although Far From Home does take place in London, ironically. So it's sort of an undefined time. I don't think it's years have not passed, I will say that. So it looks like this film could take place around the same time as Spider-Man Far From Home, which means this probably takes place around 8 months after the blip. 8 months after Iron Man snapped. So it looks like we're definitely in for a pretty huge and impactful movie in the MCU with the Eternals. Be sure to let me know what you think about this video and leave all of your theories of what these post-credit scenes could be in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video, and for live updates, you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.